half in the bag.
Oh, Christ. This is a waste of time.
Well, we're back at the shop.
I'm mining for cryptocurrency.
Oh.
I hope this computer has enough CPU processing power. Oh, God, I got 1/1,000,000th of a cent. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be mining for cryptocurrency for the next 675 hours. Oh, maybe I can get a nickel's worth.
What?
I'm sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I was just saying it's nice to be back at the VCR repair shop. That whole crazy adventure with Mr. Plinkett is finally over after 2.5 years. Now we can get back to doing what we do best, talking about new movies that people are excited about.
I just watched another Bruce Willis movie.
Me too.
We need to talk to you about the 4 dead girls.
You ever seen these girls on my watch?
My suspect.
That's yours, right? And it's all
The lighter that was found at the crime scene. We got motive, we got access.
Cops wanted to confirm your identity.
Well, we decided to dive back into Bruce Willis movies.
We're making art.
This show makes a dumpster fire look like Citizen Kane.
There's been some developments since our first part. That was only a month ago we did our Bruce Willis video. And in that time, there's been 2 more Bruce Willis movies that have come out. By the time I'm done editing this video, there's probably going to be 3 more. Who knows?
It's true.
But there was also some other things that people were starting to talk about that we figured we should do a little bit of an addendum to our Bruce Willis video and go into that.
Address it.
Address it, and we're not just going to do that. So we're like, yeah, let's watch a couple more of these fucking turkeys.
Why not?
Why not?
Just see what else is happening.
You only live once. Why would you want to do anything else with your time?
Oh, Christ. This is a waste of time.
Well, we should address the elephant in the room. The rumors that, no pun intended.
Oh, hey.
The rumor that Bruce Willis may or may not have dementia, which is why he's doing all these movies really quickly to make a whole bunch of money so that he could potentially retire or
give it to his children, I think, is a part of it.
Yes, and it's not been confirmed by anybody, and it's just speculation.
That's the thing, is like now people are starting to say it as if it's facts, but the only source of it is like a couple of like rumors in like gossip rag type websites.
Yeah.
And
probably spurned on by our video. I think one was.
Yeah, I think there might have been a little bit of talk about it before, even before our video, but it's all just, well, I heard. Or he might have.
There are some comments by people who worked on some of the sets, maybe even a director who kind of sort of confirmed it, but you know, that's someone's personal medical situation, so it's entirely up to them if they want to make it public. We're not saying he is or isn't. And
hey, people not wanting something to be public ties in with the other thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and celebrity.
Celebrity.
I wanted to talk about celebrity a little.
Celebrity, personal life, what they do and don't want made available to the public.
There's a theme on this show.
I didn't even think about that till just now,
but we've seen some comments on our Bruce Willis Fake Movie Factory episode calling us monsters and calling us Hitler and that we should burn in hell and that we should kill ourselves because we made fun of Bruce Willis, who at the time of our taping, we did not know. He may or may not have dementia. If he does, that's very sad. But we were merely commenting on the fact that he's cranking out movies and that they're bad movies.
Yeah. Made a little bit of fun of Bruce Willis, but it was more, as we said in that video, it opened up to a larger situation of this, as we called it, the movie factory.
Right.
Of these things that just keep getting cranked out. And that's more interesting than just the fact that Bruce Willis is bored and disinterested and not good in them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Bruce Willis has been bored and disinterested for a long time.
Long before this,
and I think the big sticking point is us laughing at the fact that he uses an earpiece to be fed lines, which originally started from that play he did, the Misery play.
Yeah.
And so you know, we're calling him lazy for not bothering to read the script, shows up for 2 days, but really it's because he can't remember the lines. Well, you know.
Well, that's the thing is, like, if that's true, and we don't want to dwell on it too much because it's none of our business. If he's not making it public, it's nobody's business. But if it is true, then one, that puts him in a different light, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I understand why you would just keep cranking these out if you just want to make a bunch of money for your family before you completely call it quits, because he gets like $1 million a day on these movies. But if it's true, that also makes the filmmakers and the production company look so much worse, where they're just kind of taking advantage of this person who isn't all there.
A point on that, a final point on that, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Before we talk about the movies, because that's the fun part, talking about the movies. I would agree with you that it's elder abuse. If Bruce Willis he was holding a pen and he's like, where am I? You know, what, you're signing your receipt at the restaurant, Mr. Willis. Let me hold your hand and guide your hand while you sign this contract that says you'll appear in this film for $1. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure he has people, agents and family members that are saying, yes, he will do this shoot for 2 days for $2 million. Oh, yes, he will. Bruce, are you okay? It's not
a Stan Lee situation.
Yes, and I wanted to also mention I had a little mini rant where I said it was just awful. I would say I personally wouldn't show up on a set making 99% of the budget for 2 days, phoning it in, not getting out of a chair. Yeah. I said it would feel awful because you've got all these crew members around you that are working, but it is these movies exist and are created in a free market capitalist system where Bruce Willis is paid that amount of money because he can be.
Because he's Bruce Willis.
And no one is forcing anyone to stand there and hold a boom mic for $50 a day at gunpoint. You can choose to go into the movie business, and maybe these people that are working on the lower end of the crew spectrum will eventually move up in the ladder, and that's just how the business works.
Oh, sure. I'm not talking about the lower crew member people.
Well, I'm addressing my rant before. Okay. And so Bruce Willis has a name. That name has value.
You can say I worked on a Bruce Willis movie.
Yeah, yes, Pete. The crew might not get paid as much as him, but his name has a value attached to it. The movie production, if they skimp on everything but the above-the-line costs, the Bruce Willis costs, they skimp on everything. Craft service. They give people peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They use the worst plug-in visual effects, the worst locations. This is shot against the green screen. We don't care what it looks like. And if the movie ekes out a profit, no one's to blame. The only specter that looms above this whole system is the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
And whether or not eventually the Bruce Willis movies will run out of steam. At this moment, no one has died. People might be being treated shitty. Maybe they're not getting paid a lot. You know, but it is what it is. And eventually, the law of diminishing returns will end these movies, and Bruce will have made a nice $20-30 million. I mean, I don't know how much money his kids need. That's not my business. That's the end of that. It turns out he does indeed have dementia. It is up to him and his family whether or not he wants to cash in before he sits in the lazy boy and watches football games.
Matter of fact, he was half in the bag over at the Montello.
And as we were talking off camera with our friend Jack Packard about this recently, and all these movies that keep coming out, one every other week. When Bruce Willis stops acting, whatever he decides that is, no one is going to remember any of these movies. All anyone's going to talk about is Pulp Fiction, Die Hard, Fifth Element, and these will have just been things that happened that vanished forever.
Right.
So let's keep talking about them.
Oh, yeah, baby. Yeah.
We both picked, because there's two that have come out.
Yeah.
So you watched one, I watched the other.
And don't say we both picked. You picked Gasoline Alley, and you told me to watch the other one.
Well, I picked Gasoline Alley because it's directed by my arch nemesis, Edward John Drake, the worst filmmaker of all time.
You know something you don't even know you know. Or somebody wants you to know something.
Gasoline Alley, despite having a very simple premise, I had no fucking clue what was going on through the whole film. It's set in LA, but it's very clearly not shot in LA. Devon Sawa owns a tattoo parlor called Gasoline Alley. And every time he goes outside his tattoo parlor, you see like little Main Street in somewhere in Georgia, but it's supposed to be LA.
The cobblestone streets.
It's like, yeah, like little shops across the street.
Southeast cobblestone.
I don't know where it is, but it's definitely not Los Angeles.
Right.
But beginning of the movie, he's in a bar. A woman comes up to him, starts talking to him. Turns out she's a prostitute. And then we cut to the next day. And she's been murdered along with 2 other prostitutes.
How noir.
And there's the only evidence at the scene of the crime is a lighter with his tattoo parlor's company name on it, like a promo.
The lighter, it was found at the crime scene.
What's your point?
So he's suspect number 1, and they've put all their faith in the fact that he definitely did it, just because there was a lighter at the scene of the crime.
Sounds like Veronica.
Cause of death? Apparent shock and loss of blood.
Nice.
But the 2 cops, there's really only one cop. It's Luke Wilson, but his partner is Bruce Willis, who comes and goes sporadically, doesn't have a character. He basically just stands there while Luke Wilson says things and then goes, yeah.
The old days, you told me about, you'd have just taken a telephone book to them. Now I gotta actually question people and go fucking buy the book.
Right.
Guess I'll take care of this here. You're gonna hit the game?
Yeah.
If they don't beat them, who can they beat?
Yeah.
There's like a scene where all he says is yeah after every other line. There's one point when he accidentally interrupts Luke Wilson.
Taking a telephone book to them. Now I gotta actually question people and go fucking buy the book.
Right.
He says yeah as Luke Wilson's still saying his line.
Really?
It's just in the movie.
Oh boy.
So they go to interrogate Devon Sawa at his tattoo parlor, and he says, I don't know anything about it. And they say, okay, and they leave. And then Devon Sawa takes it upon himself to go find who the real killer is.
It sounds like it has a nice story to it.
Well, that's where the sense ends, because after that, it's scene after scene of Devon Sawa going to a place, either interrogating a person or getting threatened by a person, and then leaving the scene.
Get the fuck out of here.
Thanks.
That's the filler.
That's the filler. There's lots and lots of talking. Every scene, they just keep talking.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no continuity. Like the first time when Luke Wilson and Bruce Willis go to interrogate him, he says, they say, that bar you were hanging out at last night, that's all the way on the other end of town. Why would you hang out there? And he's like, it's for sentimental reasons. My mom used to work there.
My mother used to work there.
Okay. Behind the bar?
Nah, not behind the bar.
Huh.
And the implication is she was a prostitute, because that's a bar where a lot of prostitutes hang out at. Next scene with Luke Wilson.
Should have just told me your mom was a working gal.
Why didn't you tell us your mom was a prostitute at that bar? Which he literally explained to him in the previous scene.
Which has nothing to do with the murder case.
Which then has nothing to do with anything.
Sure, yeah.
I don't even know what's happening after a while. He just goes around and interrogates random people. There's a car chase in the movie that is the most boring car chase of all time. It's just one car driving behind another one. They're not going fast. They're not making sharp turns. They're just driving.
Can't go over 35 in Atlanta, Georgia. So it's a state law.
It's also the sleepiest of all these movies we've done.
Yeah.
Not just in terms, like Bruce Willis's performance especially, like he's so disengaged, but like the pacing of it is really slow. I think they're going for like a Drive kind of thing. Like Nicholas Winding Refn's movies have that sort of, very methodical pacing to them.
Going for is the key phrase.
Going for it, because there's lots of like neon lights, and I think that's like that mixed with like a film noir. It's not good.
And this is your buddy, Edward Drake.
This is Edward John Drake. The best thing I can say for it is that there are no glaring technical errors. Nobody smacks their microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there is one part. Once Bruce Willis realizes that the jig is up and they know that he's the killer, he's leaving the police station and they come out like, hey, stop, we know you're the killer.
What's your hurry, Bill?
And he shoots the other cop and he's like standing over him and his mouth is clearly moving, but there's no audio coming out.
Why did Bruce Willis kill prostitutes?
I don't know.
Maybe Devon Sawa gave him a bad tattoo.
That's something.
He tattooed no regrets on his arm.
Hitler loved dogs.
Devon Sawa was actually very good in this. He's a professional.
He was good in that weird movie that we watched where...
Oh, The Fanatic.
Where someone was stalking him.
Yeah.
Who was stalking him?
It was John Travolta.
John Travolta.
Moose is in the house.
Moose is in the house. Moose is in the house. Watch out. Watch out.
Yeah, that was a good movie. That was like a brilliant movie compared to these.
Well, that just feels like a weird, unique vision by someone who kind of knows what they're doing, but then makes bizarre decisions.
Here's Moosey.
These movies are just like cobbled together with movie cliches. What can we do to get from one scene to the next?
What can we do to get to the end as quickly as possible?
To get to the end, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
So the first scene of the movie is him talking to that prostitute, and it cuts out in the middle of their conversation. And then occasionally throughout the movie, we cut to flashbacks of more of their conversation.
What are the 3 words to ruin a man's ego?
Is it in?
But it doesn't add any new information to the movie. It just cuts to it randomly. And then the last scene of the movie, he kills Bruce Willis. And there's like a big shootout with lots of cheap blood plug-in effects. So he kills Bruce Willis, he sets him on fire, and then he starts to walk out of the room, and then we cut back to that conversation with the prostitute again. And they repeat dialogue that we've already heard earlier in the film, and then it fades to black. And then before the credits start rolling, the giant Georgia logo comes up and takes up the entire screen.
Really?
Yeah,
Usually
really
that's
weird.
At the bottom of the...
It's usually at the very end, but yeah, before they even cut the credits.
Weird.
I was so confused because like that's the last, like it's such a weird scene to end the movie on because it's not like, you know, where you cut to a scene that happened earlier but you get more information and it kind of recontextualizes the movie. It was just more of their boring conversation.
But it was funny.
Yeah, no.
Guess it's true.
I bet.
Well, did they need like an extra 2 minutes or something?
That could be.
Well, my film was an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, and I would say I paid attention maybe 40% of the time.
You know something you don't even know you know. Or somebody wants you to know something.
I can't believe people pay to watch your shit either.
Get out my notes.
Oh my God. Do you have 2 pages of notes?
Well, this is...
Oh, one's for something else.
This is... Okay, I did a little work.
Oh.
Sort of. Because I didn't recognize the director. He was not a geezer teaser director. And so I did a little research. Not a research, I copy-pasted his biography from IMDb. Because this had a different feel than the other geezer teaser movies. So the director is a guy named Wes Miller, and this is his biography that I think he wrote himself. Is an upcoming filmmaking powerhouse. He doesn't come from the school of a film student getting their first break by getting paid $150 to direct a feature. Is a bit of a different backstory.
Okay.
An upcoming filmmaking powerhouse with a dedication to exploring the ongoing social and cultural problems in America.
Oh.
He specializes in exploring pulpy slices of Americana violence. Miller was raised in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was a 3-sport athlete. He attended college at Lambuth University and was an all-conference cornerback. His life's journey next took him to law school.
Oh.
After raising his son as a single father and graduating towards the top of his law school class, Miller worked as a civil rights trial lawyer and completely left the practice of law in 2015 and began completely honing his skills as a visual storyteller. His 2018 release, River Runs Red, starring Taye Diggs, George Lopez, and John Cusack.
John Cusack's another one of those guys we haven't talked about.
We'll call them Red Box stars.
He's in those geezer teasers.
Has won numerous awards, including Best Dramatic Film at the Downtown Los Angeles Film Festival. And I was like, okay, and I looked this movie up, and I looked at the IMDb reviews, and it has like a 4 out of 10, and all of them are like 0 or 1. There's a couple of 10s. Mysterious 10s in there, but they're all like, this is terribly boring, it sucks, and blah, 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 blah.
That was the case with Gasoline Alley, too, where it's all, like 1-2-star reviews, and then those occasional 10-star reviews.
Just to kind of push it to the...
Just to keep it from being super low, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we did with Space Cop.
Oh.
Remember we made a bunch of IMDb accounts?
We weren't supposed to talk about that.
Did I say...
I'll cut this part out.
I'll cut this out. Make sure that you cut this out.
Okay. I'll double check the edit before I upload the video.
Okay.
I'll make sure that...
Miller has developed an exciting body of work in a short time, never a good sign, to deliver films that are commercial, socially relevant, and impactful that challenge both the eye and the mind.
Oh. And how does A Day to Die stack up in that department?
It's fucking terrible! This director was an athlete in college, then became a lawyer, and then at some point decided to switch gears and make movies, probably because he was a big fan of movies. And he was a civil rights trial lawyer, so he's got an angle there that he wants to explore in movies. Not a terrible, filmmaker, but clearly it's not something that he's good at.
Chopper going down! Chopper going down!
That's why I wanted to highlight. Usually we don't go too much into the director's backgrounds, but like with some of these hacks, the Edward Drakes of the world, this guy stood out as coming from a totally different background.
Yeah, he didn't go to film school or work his way up productions. Or anything.
Yeah. And
now the question is, we do know of one other lawyer/filmmaker. And that's John DeHart of Get Even fame. How does he stack up to John DeHart?
I swell up as you take me for a ride. Come on, pretty baby, let's do the shimmy slide.
Well, he's much better than John DeHart.
Okay. Nobody does the shimmy slide.
There's no dancing.
Film?
There's a lot of trap music.
Oh.
But there's no shimmy slide, and the guy isn't so full of himself that he wants to star in the film. He's not a black tank top kind of guy. I think he's, in his own mind, trying to make movies with legitimate political, social messages in the form of action movies, and he's sort of bad at it, but sort of okay at it. I mean, compared to other Bruce Willis movies I've seen, it's not good. But I think also, too, if I were to psychoanalyze him a bit, I think he was probably a guy who really loved those kinds of movies. Mm-hmm. And he's jumping a few steps ahead. He might have some personal funding, some personal financial stakes in this, although when you start the movie, like all the other Bruce Willis movies, there are 7 or 8 different logos.
That reminds me, there was a new one at the beginning of my movie. A new company, Highland Film Group. I had not seen them before in the other ones.
That's just a name for a guy who's investing money.
Sure.
You got to come up with an LLC.
Making a Bruce Willis movie? I'll donate money to that.
I'll put in 10 grand. Okay, Mr. Highland. Well, you have to form an LLC to protect yourself liably for when Bruce Willis falls off the stage. Because he doesn't.
Who did that happen to? Who fell off a stage? Was that Kelsey Grammer?
Pretending I was a UN interpreter. Good Lord.
Let me just tell you about the plot. Kevin Dillon plays cop guy, SWAT team man in the beginning of the film. There's a hostage situation at a school, and the school is filled with adults. So I don't know what kind of school it is.
They didn't want to deal with hiring child actors.
It might have been
parent-teacher.
it might have been parent-teacher night. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. But it's this jumbled mess of bad green screen, plug-in effects, CGI this.
What's green screens?
Oh God. Well, there's a wonderful shot that reveals Kevin Dillon's character, and the camera's coming through the back of a van, They have the worst rear screen projections outside of cars.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've seen some bad ones on TV shows, but this, it's like the car's sitting still and the background's moving, but they have the shot that kind of...
It's like Toonces?
Yes, it's worse than Toonces.
Oh my God.
It looks like the car is in a constant state of flipping over. It's not great. So they fire like a missile into the school for no reason and blow it up. And it doesn't look half bad, but then they're like going in and they're shooting people and there's blood squibs, but then at the same time there looks like there's some practical explosions. And then, they just coat the frame with like digital smoke and like particles, gravel flying through the air, and it's really like obvious.
Yeah.
So it's just like every like cheapo film making low budget thing is shoved into the opening, and stock footage, plug-in effects, bad green screen.
Oh my God.
You know, like all it's all in there. The raid gets botched. Innocent people get shot, and then I think Kevin Dillon, he gets demoted, and it cuts to like, I don't know, 6 months later, 2 years later, 10 years later, and he's chasing down one of his, I think he's a parole officer now. He's chasing down one of his parolees, and his parolee is getting roughed up by a gang member, and Kevin Dillon ends up shooting the gang member, and it turns out the gang member is part of the posse of a bigger crime lord guy.
Oh.
And they get out of the car and they say, white boy. They say white boy about 500 times in this movie.
Fuck out of here, white boy.
Don't fight it, white boy. If we let these white boys live, so you still trust these white boys?
I was offended. I would prefer they use the term cracker.
Sure.
You know, I was like, can you stop saying white boy? Can you say cracker? I'm okay with it.
It's time to retire, white boy.
It's time to retire, white boy. Say cracker.
Remove that from your vernacular.
You're pregnant?
And so the premise of the movie is Kevin Dillon's wife, who 20 years his junior,
Of
the
course.
actress, finds out she's pregnant. And then bad cop guy, even though the guy that Kevin Dillon shot, they pull up in like a black Cadillac van, you know, they're bad crime guys.
Yeah.
They are pointing guns at Kevin Dillon. This is where the movie starts. And they say, Kevin Dillon, you shot my guy. Well, let's smoke this white boy. And they're pointing the guns at him. And Kevin Dillon's like, wait, don't shoot me. And then they're like, take Bobby's gun, the guy who got shot, the crime lord. And then he's like, I got a better prize for you. A white guy shooting an unarmed black man.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, well, he's a known criminal. I don't, maybe they just took his gun away. There's probably security cameras everywhere. And he's like, go, and then he gets in trouble.
Social commentary.
Social commentary.
But
Kevin Dillon gets in trouble with his captain or whatever. And he's like, and so Bruce Willis is the police captain.
Oh.
And we got a visit from our friend the earpiece.
Oh, sure.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, you don't see that in my movie, but that's because all he ever says is yeah.
Yeah. Now I gotta act right.
Yeah.
There's one particular part that I pointed out. Bruce Willis is doing a press conference, and I think it's in the trailer. And he's like, "I'm the police chief, and in this city."
I'm Police Chief Bruce Willis.
No. There's notable like pauses while he's waiting.
Well, a lot of people have died on my watch. I will always bear that pain. Every day. And that pain drives me to protect this city. I'm
gonna stop all the crime that's happening. Like you can tell.
It's not a dramatic beat.
And then he just kind of walks off, and that's like his biggest line. His other lines are just sort of like, But Bruce Willis is at the botched hostage raid in the beginning, and he's just like looking at a screen somewhere, like watching, like, but he's just like
doesn't know where he's supposed to be looking.
Doesn't know what he's doing. But it turns out Bruce Willis is working with the bad guy.
If you're trying to make a movie about like cop violence, which it sounds like this kind of has a little bit of theme of that, but
no, it's more like there's the movie is explained in a speech by the bad guy.
Oh, great!
This country's built on fucking crime, fucking settlers, slavery, thieves.
Falls family got rich off of trading opium.
You know what they make with opium? Heroin. And then they put politicians in there to make it illegal, to protect their wealth.
These were humans that were harmful to other humans. They were cheats, thieves, criminals, liars, abusers, corruptors.
And they're like, I guess you're right, but let's all shoot at each other. And everyone shoots at each other. But the ending, one of the characters did a self-sacrifice thing so that everybody else could get away on a plane and escape the shooting. And he gets in like a Toyota Camry, and he goes towards the police line, which includes Bruce Willis, who is bad guy. And Bruce Willis gives the order to fire, but Bruce Willis is nowhere near the set. He's supposed to be standing there in front of all the cop cars and snipers and all that. And they have this.
He's the head of this whole thing.
Yes, they have this low-angle shot of Bruce Willis's face, and he's like, and he's just like looking. And then they have the classic body double, then he puts the hand up, and then they start shooting at the car, and the car comes at Bruce Willis, and then it stops right in front of him, and they just keep cutting to like an extreme close-up of Bruce Willis, and I think he looks sad.
Now, is this the movie? I remember somebody tweeted at us. They made like a compilation of
it is that movie.
of Bruce Willis's lines seeming to be ADR'd or redone with like an AI voice thing.
You left a loose end.
You left a loose end.
Knowing what battles to fight, that's critical.
Knowing what battles to fight and when to fight, that's critical.
A theory.
Okay.
Stupid theory. But there's a part where I think it's when the wife, she's sitting on the bathroom floor and she does her pregnancy test. And Kevin Dillon comes home. It's like when we introduce her. And he's talking. And I thought it was Bruce Willis.
I know, baby, I know. Can I come in?
Until we see him walk in the bathroom. He sounds a lot like Bruce Willis. And with just a little tweak to his voice, maybe they hired him because he sounds like Bruce Willis, and they could loop lines for Bruce Willis using Kevin Dillon.
He's gonna have to come in for looping anyway.
Under the same contract.
That could be, okay.
Well, just all do me a favor here.
Do me a favor, will you please? Will you do me a kindness?
Just humor me, people. And take a listen. I don't know if I'm crazy.
Sorry I'm late. It's a long day of work.
You still got your money? Why are you here?
Well, Jay, I think we're done talking about Bruce Willis movies now. And,
yes.
And no to the internet, we're not doing all the Nicolas Cage movies or all the John Cusack movies.
We're not doing any more Bruce Willis movies.
Well, definitely not more Bruce Willis movies. But
we mainly wanted to bring up the revelation of people saying that, he might have some health issues. We still don't know, but we decided we'd bring this back up and then close the book on Bruce Willis movies.
You just did closing the book when there's a book in front of me.
I did. Do
that again.
I closed my fake book onto a real book.
Okay. Well, can you do it again pretend to close the book? Come on. No, with the real book, you fucking dummy.
What are you talking about?
So we're going to close the book on the Bruce Willis movies. Right, Jay?
Oh, you did it wrong.
Is that what? Is that
we don't have time for another take. Let's keep moving.
Flash forward to the year 3080. Someone's trying to repair a VCR.
They're missing that one crucial page.
The next step. They're like weird alien human hybrids.
They must repair this VCR.
There's something on the tape that they want to repair about how to rejuvenate the Earth and save the planet.
It's a tape called Saving the Earth.
Yeah.
In order to fix the VCR, we must follow the next step. 38. 40. No! The Earth is doomed!
And the planet explodes with a cheap plug-in effect.
There you go. Directed by Edward Drake.
We just wrote a Bruce Willis movie.
We just wrote a Bruce Willis movie. Bruce Willis must walk through the desert, the wasteland of New York City in the year 3000 to find the missing page from the VCR repair manual. And he walks, and he's clearly green screened in this really terrible CGI New York City. And and then every shot of him is low angled with just nothing but blue sky above him going.
And you cut to his double, of course.
And you cut to some guy walking, bald guy walking, who looks nothing like him, and cut to Bruce.
Yeah.
To hold up the alien laser guns.
They should let us make one of these movies.
The VCR.
How do we get in touch with that guy? What's his name? The king of the geezer teasers?
Yeah. We got an idea. It's called The Last Page.
We got to get a hold of him.
Post up. It's like Mad Max, but for nerds who repair VCRs.
Sure.
There's 2 VCR repairmen named Mike and Jay, the last on Earth. Our great-great-great-great-grandfathers were VCR repairmen. And we studied the tomes. And the tape, the Smithsonian has the one and only VCR tape that has a scientist who recorded on his video camera in 1980 a weird equation, right?
The scientist on the tape is played by John Cusack.
Sure. And this weird equation that he videotaped himself writing on like a dry erase board is what will create this chemical reaction that will eliminate all the toxins in the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
But it only exists on a videotape, and nobody knows how to play it.
And they're Bruce Willis's body double.
Yes, but they have a VCR. One VCR left, and it's broken, and the repair manual is missing the page that is the key instruction on how to fix that VCR. It's a little convoluted, but
we'll make sure that things happen in the movie.
Yeah, we'll have some twists and turns.
We'll have stuff happen.
Yeah, it's going to be good. The Last Page.
I would say that if he sees, our previous film, Space Cop, he might turn us down for this job, but we've seen his other movies, so I don't think it matters.
But if we can raise $2 million, we can shoot with Bruce for 24 hours.
Okay.
And all we need are low-angle shots of him looking around against the blue sky.
And then we'll figure the rest out later.
Yeah, and the body double will get in the fights. All fights will be shot from behind him, and he'll go. And then the body double will punch people. It's going to be good. Yeah. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Well, we're going to talk about a TV show.
What the hell is this? It's all over town.
TV, print, radio.
There's a tape going around of Pamela Anderson.
Let's see what we got.
It's one of those things, and this is why we're bringing this up, because it was kind of a surprise in terms of the quality of it. Because you hear the mini-series about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee's sex tape, and you're just like,
yeah,
this is probably going to be trashy and lame.
Right. It reminds me of those the guy who does the American Horror Story. Those kind of.
Yes, which I actually like the American Crime Story. I don't like American Horror Story. I like American Crime Story.
Sure.
For some reason,
the OJ one was fun.
Yeah, the over the topness, the campiness, for when you put it in a recreation of real world situation, it develops almost like a satirical quality that American Horror Story doesn't have. And what we're talking about, Pam and Tommy, is not related to those, but it takes place in that same era. But I wasn't planning on ever watching this. I saw some promo images from it, and I'm like, I'm not watching that. It's like they're recreating actual photos of them almost perfectly. I was like, I have no reason to watch this. But then I found out it was written by Robert Siegel, who wrote The Wrestler, one of my favorite movies. And he also wrote a kind of underseen movie starring Patton Oswalt called Big Fan. And I was like, oh, okay, well, he's a good writer. He used to write for The Onion way back when The Onion meant something. And it's directed by the guy who directed I, Tonya, which I thought was a good movie.
Yeah.
And the similar kind of pop culture-y mid-90s event thing. Have you seen I, Tonya?
I have not.
It ends, because that was another one of those big event things from that era. And it ends with that whole story is over, and just on the TV is starting to be news about the OJ trial. And you're like, oh, that's the next thing. All these big 90s scandalous things. So you got a guy that worked for The Onion, satirical pop culture stuff, and the director of I, Tonya is like, I'm going to give this a shot.
And you're hooked.
And I was shocked by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite things I've watched so far this year. And it goes along with a big list of TV.
Yeah.
Now, I know we weren't going to mention this,
No one's watching. It's fine.
I've been watching lots of TV, and when The Batman came out with new Batman, and I'm just like, don't care.
Yeah. Which is not a comment on the quality of the movie because we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it.
But people get very defensive and offended when we just say, I'm not interested in something. It's very weird.
There are certain big movies like that we should review or talk about or watch, but when it comes to some things, I'm just like, no.
Another Batman.
Yeah.
Even if it's good, I'm just not that interested.
It could be really good.
I would rather see something new and different.
Right. And this definitely was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a recreation of an actual event, but it's told in an interesting way. It covers a lot of different things and becomes about much bigger topics.
Yes.
It's not just the Pam and Tommy Lee trashy sex tape biopic movie.
No, it's sort of like very heightened reality, heightened comedic reality. And I don't really know I didn't know the story behind the Pam and Tommy sex tape. I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I've heard of it, and I remember it sort of happening back then, but...
Well, I remember it from, and it's brought up in the movie, late night talk show jokes.
Sure, yeah.
That's where I know it from.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you, not recontextualize it, but when you contextualize it with the fact that these were real people, and you have Jay Leno making his stupid jokes, it makes you feel so bad for them.
Well, that's the genius of the way the show's put together, is it jumps back and forth between two different sides. It's like a big Shakespearean tragedy, like it's like a big epic story.
Yeah.
With the king and the queen and the court jester and all these different tragic heroes and characters and betrayals and what I don't know what was exactly 100% factually accurate. I'm assuming a lot of it was, but
you do have to watch these kind of things with that in mind.
You kind of
don't watch it as if it's a documentary.
It's not a documentary, yeah, because I believe Tommy Lee was pretty spot on, probably.
A giant asshole?
He was probably a giant asshole. Well, let's get to the overview. Seth Rogen plays a carpenter who was in a porno once, who dated a porn actress.
Yes, yeah, friends in the porn industry.
Friends in the porn industry, but now he's working as a carpenter. He's a sort of an everyday man, and he's working on Tommy Lee's house, building his bed, and then Tommy Lee is a total asshole to him. And that's the first chapter. That's the window we get is...
Our protagonist at the beginning of this story is Seth Rogen. You're on his side when it starts.
Right, when it starts. You like him a lot. He's treated so poorly by Tommy Lee, almost comically, awfully treated.
Well, that's when you say this is sort of like comedically heightened.
Yeah, whether or not that's entirely true. We held a shotgun to him, and I don't know, but it works for the story. And then I was like, oh no, they're gonna make me kind of like Pam and Tommy, aren't they? Aren't they?
I guess that's important to point out too. I don't care about either of them
in real life.
In real life,
yeah.
Even at the time, I know Pamela Anderson was a big star. I never watched Baywatch. But I was aware of them, of course.
Yeah, you're aware. They're famous people, and that's the thing is, there's a big obviously a big element of celebrity in this. Motley Crue is past their prime. This is past the grunge revolution, and
that's another aspect of the show.
Yes, fading stars and their careers declining.
Yeah.
Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee's. Her attempts to advance in her career are thwarted by the sex tape.
What's that like? To have all that exposure.
What's it like? This is devastating to us. What?
So then Seth Rogen decides to steal Tommy Lee's safe because he knows he has a bunch of guns and money in it, and get back at him. The reality is, I highly doubt that the real life guy carried a safe out of a house by himself. I have no idea. But the point is, the premise of the show, he finds the sex tape, decides to start selling it, making copies, and then it just
partially
balloons from there.
Yeah, well, partially to make money, but also as like a fuck you to Tommy Lee.
Oh yeah, he wants revenge.
He wants revenge, and then what becomes a bigger part of the show is he absolutely no thought into how that would affect the other person in the tape, which is Pamela Anderson.
Yes,
and it does a great job of balancing out your sympathies for all these people.
Yeah, it's just ironic. Seth Rogen's character he's very into religions. Seth Rogen's character justifies stealing the tape as a form of karma and universal balance. He has some sort of like logic in his head, but like you said,
whatever he has to do to justify his shitty actions,
he doesn't
basically
think it through and how it could cascade into all these problems and affect everybody's lives.
Yeah. Well, and that's another aspect of the show is you talk about like the grunge scene taking over for the hair metal. So this kind of changing of pop culture, changing of where things are headed. And so we have analog versus digital, where you have the tape. It was a sex tape. It was a high 8, I think, but it gets transferred to VHS and then sold on the internet. Not uploaded to the internet because you couldn't really do that. This is the early days of the internet. So that's an aspect of it too.
Eventually it gets to that.
Eventually it gets to that towards the end, but this idea that like, well, we want to sell this, how do we do it? Well, they can't trace us if it's on the internet. And all that stuff, I thought was handled really well. And then this idea of like ownership, where Seth Rogen feels like he owns, because he had the idea to sell the tape. He stole the tape, he has the idea to sell it. There's a bootlegger outside of Tower Records.
You look, dude, you have no right to be selling these. You are profiting off of somebody else's considerable risk and labor, which is probably illegal, but it's definitely unethical.
Get the fuck out of here, dog.
Enjoy while it lasts. This whole operation's getting shut down, man.
And he's like, that's not yours, it's mine. And it's like, it's not yours. You stole it. That aspect of it, fair use before fair use was a thing, because Bob Gucciani from Penthouse eventually gets a hold of the tape, and it becomes a legal thing of like, can he publish photos from it?
Yeah,
because it's already in the public. It's out there in the public, and they're celebrities.
The judge doesn't quite know what the internet is, so he's like, if it's on the internet, then it's public domain.
This opens up, like now you have so many cases of like celebrities where their nude photos get leaked, and then once it's on the internet, it's out there forever.
Yeah.
And nobody in this really has an understanding of that because it's so early into the internet.
Changing of the guard.
Yeah.
From the old days, pre-internet hair metal days, to the internet 90s. They dial up modems and they go to the library.
They don't even know how to look up the tape, so they have to go to the library.
I like when, I think it's Nikki Sixx is on the phone telling Tommy Lee how to type in a web address.
Yeah.
No, it's just 3 W's, okay? It's not www, it's just 3 W's. Just type it in like that.
W, full stop.
It's a very funny show. #1 show, limited series, whatever the fuck, long movie.
Sure.
Broken up into 8 parts, whatever. And at the same time, it's very like, it's like a time capsule. It encapsulates a little period of time when things were changing, as you say, in multiple different ways.
Yeah.
And it's also very like, very human, because you feel bad for Pamela. I mean, I don't know, spoiler alert. I don't know, should we have spoilers?
Well, we're into it, whatever.
So some bad things happen to her as a result of the stress from the sex tape, and their lives sort of crumble. They have this like whirlwind romance, which is a whole episode.
Yes. Well, that's the first episode is devoted to Seth Rogen's character. The second is more about them. So this is like the perfect thing for a mini series.
Yeah.
A limited series where it's like you can really expand on all these different aspects of it.
Right. Not too much to cram into a movie, but 8 episodes of a thing it didn't feel like it was dragging.
No, and
it felt like it had everything it needed.
Yeah, some of these types of things feel like that, where it's like, this would probably work better as just a movie, a 2-hour movie. Also on Hulu right now is The Dropout, about Elizabeth Holmes, the Theranos lady, the fraud.
Yeah.
And I've watched a few episodes of that, and that feels like this should be a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
It's very social networky. It reminded me of a Social Network, but it's not done yet. But that feels like this should be a movie, not an ongoing thing because it's starting to stretch, starting to drag.
Yeah, so there's the female angle from it. Tommy's like, I'm on the tape too.
Oh yeah,
she's like, it's different for you.
The double standard of for you come off cool because of this. I come across like a slut.
Right.
That's how people are going to perceive me.
Yeah, because it's true.
Yeah.
And yeah, they didn't really. They introduced that and they addressed it, but without being too heavy-handed with it. They even manage just a bit to make you feel sort of bad for Tommy Lee. Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Even though he is a gigantic prick, which I guess leads into the performances, which is one of the fucking highlights. Sebastian Stan, right? Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
Him and Lily James are Pam and Tommy Lee. And
I didn't know it was Sebastian Stan until like halfway through the series.
They completely disappear into these parts, like where they don't 100% look like the real people, not that they have to, but their performances are so strong you forget that you're not watching the real people.
I know.
Multiple times I was like, every once in a while I'd be pulled out of it. I was like, oh, that's right, these are actors.
It manages to ride that delicate line between completely making you believe that it's the real people, but also in a heightened reality.
Yeah. I could have used more. There's the scene in the second episode where Tommy Lee is in the bathroom and he's talking to his dick.
Tommy!
What?
You sound fucking ridiculous.
That's how I feel. I'm in love, bro.
And his dick is talking back to him. And it's a little animatronic dick. Well, it's a big animatronic dick. And I was like, oh, we're going into surreal territory. But that's the only moment that really does that.
That part stuck out to me, no pun intended, as being a little like...
You either need to do more of that or you cut that part because it felt out of place because it was the only time,
it's like the talking can of peas and well, whatchamacallit?
Wet Hot American Summer.
Wet Hot American Summer.
I've never told anyone this before, but I can suck my own dick, and I do it a lot.
You commit to that where his penis is a character who's constantly talking to him, or you don't do it at all. And to me, that if I were to have a flaw of this show, that would probably be it.
It's only a flaw because it's just that one thing. If they played that up more and it became a regular thing, where it's almost like you have the angel and the devil, and you have the devil as his dick or something like. But it's just that one scene. It's really weird. It's out of place.
It's a little out of place, but would have made it?
Without the stress of everything that happened with the sex tape?
I don't know. That's why it's a tragedy. It's this grand epic tragedy of all these characters and how one little thing could just blow up so many different lives.
They say that I don't have rights because I've spent my public life in a bathing suit.
It's funny. It's very engaging. It's very energetic. There's a lot of energy to it. And it's interesting.
Well, it's technically minded when it needs to be. Like all the aspects of them trying to figure out how to duplicate the tape, how to get it out there. Like all these things that, like, I don't know, if you're into like VHS or that era of, mailing out VHS tapes, things like very specific things that interested me, and then like the legal aspects.
Then I was going to say the other flip side of that is the legal response, and the industry's response too. How her career is changed because of it. They start turning her down for roles. Her publicist is working with her to promote Barbed Wire, and everything kind of goes wrong. Her career nosediving, and then Tommy Lee, and they try to. I love that scene where they realize that their record label, Elektra Records, has bumped them down to Studio B. They've given Studio A to Third Eye Blind.
Third Eye Blind, yeah.
Who the fuck are you guys?
It was a little, if the series wasn't so like dramatically heightened, I would say this comes across silly, but it kind of works. Where they're promoting their new album and they're playing in the parking lot of Tower Records, and we have all the grunge guys walking up, and every one of them is wearing a very different band shirt, where it's like, I don't know, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam,
Nirvana,
Yeah, they all have their own specific. I was like, this is a little silly, but for this it works.
It works, yeah.
So yeah, this director, he has a knack for making these heightened celebrity things without turning them into farces or completely making fun of the people involved.
It's about celebrities. Like we've talked about celebrities, Bruce Willis, Pam and Tommy were big celebrities. Who are the celebrities now, Jay? I want to say the age of the A-list celebrity has its golden age is over.
Now the stars, what sells tickets is the IP. It's Batman.
In terms of movies.
In terms of movies, yeah.
Right.
TV is just so spread out that I don't even know where you begin.
But there's just so much good acting in a lot of TV shows.
Oh, sure.
And I've predicted it before. Movie theaters will turn into Disney entertainment events.
I think we're pretty much there.
Where the little tiny art house film is not going to play in a megaplex. The megaplex will be 20 giant screens that play nothing but Spider-Man.
You stay at home and you watch shit on Hulu. Hulu's really doubling down on original stuff. Did you hear about like, because Hulu is the same as like 20th Century Fox, which is owned by Disney, and they're like putting out something like a dozen or 15 original movies direct to Hulu. Ooh. And it's all stuff that is like, one of them is going to be like a new Alien movie. So there's some of it that's like name recognition stuff, but they know that it can't compete with a Marvel movie. So it's like, well, release it to Hulu. And that's where that stuff is going to live now. The mid to lower budget studio stuff, the things that don't cost $300 million to make.
I don't have a fear of going to the movie theaters because of COVID. I just don't want to go to the movie theaters.
Yes.
I will wait until the Batman comes on.
Well, that's the other thing too, is the window is shrunk so much between theater and VOD stuff.
And I'm enjoying shows.
Yeah. You can see stuff that it still takes a chance. Like also, speaking of Sebastian Stan, another Hulu thing, there's a movie that came out called Fresh. Have you heard of this? It'd be I watched it. It'd be a great like 80-minute movie, but unfortunately it's 2 hours. But it's very different structurally. It's like 30 minutes into the movie before the title of the movie even comes on. And then, because at that point, the movie takes a drastic shift in tone and where the story goes. And it's the kind of thing that, like, that's not going to get a theatrical release anymore.
Right.
But you put it on Hulu.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was great, but I would rather, focus my attention on watching that than seeing than going to the theater and seeing a Batman movie.
Right.
That's going to be insane.
Now, I have got to get back to mining my cryptocurrency. Will you help me? Quick, hit these buttons.
What do they do? What if I hit A?
Oh, I just lost $75,000. You fuck up.
Oh.
Well, we're gonna have to fix a lot of VCRs to make up for that $75,000 in lost cryptocurrency. Lightning fast VCR. Yes, we accept cryptocurrency.